Hello, this is Dina Redinger. I am with Sharon Weinstein, and we're working on two series. So I'm in the second series, Modules 3, leveraging your core values that you can be a contributor at work, but also inspiring others to follow you as a leader. So it's learning how to leverage who you are at your deepest core level. So let's jump in and let's just get started. So what are you going to learn from this actual process? First off, what are your unique core values? Who you are is who you are, and it doesn't really change. Contribution strategies. How do you make sure that you are a contributor and invite other people to be contributors, but to communicate clearly? Really an important facet for all leaders. The next slide, we're going to talk about connecting the dots. It's between values and culture. And a lot of people don't know how to connect those dots. We talk about them independently of each other, but they very much depend on each other in creating a very inviting work environment so that people feel like they can be contributors and that they do feel valued themselves. So it's important that you understand, once again, who you are, but also so that you can look through the lens of who you are so you can see how other people are and some of the values that they have. So our core values are our innate self. They never change. This process came from, an assessment came from Lynn Taylor with over 35 years of doing company turnarounds. Interesting enough is what he found through this very short 10-minute assessment that probably 80% of people were in the wrong role. We also find that if you're not in the right role, you're not happy, you're not fulfilled, and who you are is really very deeply ingrained and it doesn't change. It exists from birth. It arises from your intellect. It's not learned behaviors. Your values are who you are, and essentially by character of who we are. And then Lynn Taylor, like I said, 30 years of research and experience. So we know it's vetted and it's proven. So with Taylor's protocol, the self-actualization pyramid is much like many of the other Pavlov's pyramids that we have seen before that actually show, when you are in the right role, aligned with the right passion and calling, and you're doing things that really light your fire, you're on a mission, you find that to be your peak experience. It's sad to say that 80% of the world is probably very unhappy because they're not in the right role and they're always looking for something that is the right role. So what does this measure? As I said, it's innate preferences. It's not learned behavior. They're innate within you. It's a forced choice format between two words. It's only positive values, no negative values. It's 97% repeatable, which is what I like. Anything that's scientifically proven with 3 third-party vendors says that this is 97% repeatable, which means you can take this now in your life and you can take this 30 years from now, but it's going to be very close to being very much the same. And it only takes 10 minutes. It's uncanny how accurate this is. I've given it to over 700 people across the world, and no one has ever told me yet that it doesn't fit. So let's talk about the 4 things that are involved with the outcome that you get with your core values index. First, let's just kind of go around clockwise. We're going to start with the builder. It's around power. They're catalyzed by faith. They just go, they get things done. They don't ask people for permission, but they just go and get things done. They decide, they do. You as a leader love these people because you never have to chase them for anything. You just go off and do it. Now, if they are questioned about why they're doing what they're doing, they may become very intimidating. Merchants are around love, they're around vision and nurturing core values and others and self. They're about relationships, they're about vision, they talk and listen. And the minute that a merchant is not acknowledged for their vision and their contribution, they can become a little bit manipulative. That takes a lot of different views when you talk about manipulation. It could be talking to other people. It could be anything but going directly to a source. Is merchants kind of dance around that because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. They also find that if they've been lied to, they're very much kind of done with those people and hardly ever open the door again. So merchants, if that's you, you want to make sure and keep your door open for everybody, regardless of how you think or feel. The innovator is around wisdom. They can walk into the room, they can see what needs to be happening, and they put those pieces of the puzzle together. They're about compassion, they're about assessing and solving. They can become very interrogative if you don't allow them to be contributors at work. So a person that's asking a lot of questions could be your high innovator, which we all need those. A banker is around core knowledge. It's about conserving resources and energy. They read, they analyze, and they're really about making sure that your builder, your merchant, and your innovator don't run off and spend all the resources that they have. If you do not find them participating, they are very aloof because you're not asking them what their ideas are of how to manage resources. So this is the 4 quadrants. You can kind of look at yours now and ask yourself, okay, who am I really? And how do I show up to other people? Because that's very much of self-awareness as a leader as well. Now, for everything that we talked about that creates intimidation, being aloof, being an interrogator, or somebody that's manipulative, it's all because you've been fired up in this core value area, which is the amygdala. The amygdala is the place in the brain that is protecting for you. It's around the fight or flight response. What we find is that women have a very hyperreactive amygdala many times because they are charged throughout their life of doing so many things, and they're constantly going, with the fear of not either feeling like they're perfect enough, can't get enough stuff done, I'm going to be seen as weak if I don't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the whole list goes on and on. So women, men do too, but women really struggle with this. And if you have made lots of positive decisions in the past, those are all stored into the hippocampus. Many times we decide, that was a good way to handle that situation. I'm going to take that answer and I'm going to apply it to this problem over here. And what we find is that 99% of the time it was the wrong problem to solve in the first place. So this hyperreactive amygdala can self-sabotage what you're trying to do if you're running a life centered around fear, because fear has all been designed by your experiences and your beliefs. So we really have to work on mindset change and what is the narrative that we're saying to ourselves to make sure that we're honest. We're staying in the truth of how things look and the facts of the situation. So what's important and what is the impact? You have to understand what your trigger is. If you find yourself in a fight or flight response, usually there's some biological reaction to something that triggers fear for you. You may feel it in your hands, you may feel it in your face or your neck, in your gut or your heart. Understand where your trigger is. Become socially aware of those you work with and who you work for. Leverage who you are for your next role. So if you're great at being an innovator, make sure that an innovator, core value is at the center of that job, because if not, you're going to be miserable. Set yourself up from the pack. Influence others, accomplish goals, and enlarge your circle of influence. Huge. Don't underestimate the last one. Enlarge your circle of influence. Don't let your fear of reaching across the table sabotage your ability to move up at work. So it can't. Influence is the number one thing that women don't do well, is to influence. Make sure you're influencing other people outside of your circle of influence. To be brave and confident leader, these are the main attributes after researching and reflecting on with people all over the world, some of the things that makes them brave and how other people see them as confidence. It's really honest and hardworking. They're competent, inspiring, intelligent, fair-minded, broad-minded, supportive, straightforward, dependable, cooperative, determined, imaginative, and you can read on, but they are courageous. Most importantly, they are courageous. Opportunity for change, well, it's always good that if you go first, because people can't follow you if you don't go first. They don't know what to follow. So if you are wanting to be a great leader, then you have to be a great contributor, and you have to show people that you're very confident in what you want to do. Have you helped other people be contributors, and how do you bring other people with you? What makes you different from others? If you cannot differentiate yourself from other people, then you're missing an opportunity. This is one of them. Leveraging your core values will differentiate you from others. So leveraging your core values, knowing what makes you, you, be confident in your requests. Many women are not confident in what they want. Many times they don't even know what they want. So when you ask a woman, so what do you want? They're like, well, I don't know what I want. Seriously, sit down and make sure you clearly can articulate what you want. And make sure you don't let your amygdala fly off the handle and make decisions so quickly that you have not critically thought about what is the outcome of that decision. Outcome of that decision, monetize that decision. The what ifs, what is the best case? What's the worst case scenario? Do some critical thinking about decisions that you make. And let's face it, the world is stressful. Moving forward, you have to slow down this thinking. We just talked about it. Take small breaks and check your inner truth. Many times we have narratives that we have that are going on in our heads, and we think that that's true or right. Many times we find that it's not true or right. If we ask ourselves, what's the truth in that? And sometimes you just have to have somebody else ask you, so what makes you think that's right? Many times it's not. And get into a diagnostic thinking group. Having small groups of women together who have had different experiences, different thought processes, and the power of knowledge is undeniable. These small groups get together and they're vetted for their differences in how they think, and their experiences really do change outcomes for women all over the globe. So fact or fiction, are you truthful with the story that substantiates your decision? I don't know, are you? Do you ask yourself, what I'm thinking truthful, or is it untrue? Certainly ask yourself that question often, because that will change your mindset for how you think, and also help you manage the feelings, the subconscious feelings that are going on behind a tough decision, or maybe even a tough conversation. So think about it. Are fearful of being seen as weakly? Are you afraid of sharing your ideas? Do you personally address bad behavior? Many times women don't, they just kind of walk away. And are you clear about what you want or need? So let's talk about leveraging your leadership power, and who am I? Let's talk about some of the strategies around communicating. This is really important. Healthy venting. There are specific steps for healthy venting. One, it's really okay to vent. What's not okay when you vent is to mention names or anything that would disclose the person you're talking about. Healthy venting is, help me to manage this situation, and I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts, and I just need to get it off my chest, and I'd like for you just to, listen. And what I want from you is to listen to, what I'm actually going through, and give me some ideas on how to handle this situation. So it's healthy venting. It's really not the person that you're needing to talk with, but it may be venting with somebody else, and that's okay. What's really important is not to disclose the situation or the discussion so that the person would know who you're talking about. That is the wrong thing to do. So don't do that. Healthy venting is protecting the other person as well. So we also know that in communication, there's also negotiation. And we talked a little bit about this on our last series module, but there's lots of things to negotiate, and you can see them all here. These were the top 15 that women found were very much a part of their need to want to negotiate better, because they really just didn't know how to negotiate. So you've got that in your module now. So what do you want to negotiate? Be clear on what it is you're coming in. Once again, what it is you want. What do you want to negotiate for? What causes frustrations? Everybody's got frustrations. So when I ask women all over the world, what causes this kind of the flash of the amygdala that caused by frustrations and fear, it's all of these. So, and that's probably not limited to these 18. But most importantly, there is fear behind each one of the frustrations, because when people get frustrated, there is a fear based alongside of that frustration, because you really sometimes don't want to handle a frustration, and now you have to handle a frustration. And sometimes it just comes with a lot of fear of, how do you do that? So it's up to you to change. So in the frustration tool, this time you're going directly to the person. This is a communication strategy. So state the behavior you don't like. So, hey, Betty, I just wanted to let you know that, that particular situation when you stated this sentence, it really was very offensive for me. And what I'd like and what I need from you and what I want is to just have some filter for those kinds of words, because they're very hurtful, for me and probably for other people. And we want to know if you're willing to change that. So it's the frustration tool. You can also let them know I don't like it when you, and state the overall desire, because what I want most is a good relationship with you, and state the specific behaviors. What I want is for us to find more collaborative way of working together versus feeling like we are working against each other. So leverage who you are. It's about confidence. It's about influenceability and career acceleration. You get all three of those when you leverage who you are at your deepest core level, and especially if you jump into a diagnostic thinking group. That is where the power and the gasoline really does, it's like a skyrocket for most women, and they're finding new roles within 6 to 9 months, or they're creating new roles. So just realize, just because if the job is not out there doesn't mean you can't create it, because you can. So you have the power to connect all of these dots and be such an influenceable leader with knowing who you are at your deepest core values, using your own core values to be able to say, I think that's probably their core value too, or find ways to leverage who you are and leverage who they are. Again, my name is Dina Redinger. I am with Sharon Weinstein. We are creating this incredible series, making sure that people are thinking differently by design. And also we have our book available, Think Differently, 18 Strategies to Fix Broken Thinking. We invite you to go on this journey. This is transformational rethinking and thinking differently, but also defining strategies to make sure and accelerate the things that you want and you need for your life and your career. Thank you for joining Series 2.